Hello and welcome to a new tutorial of Purple DS. Today's topic is scrollytelling. Scrollytelling is a feature to tell stories more dynamically. With this feature you have perfect control over images and animations that are visible in the context of a specific text position. So the speed of reading of a user controls how fast an animation or a change of images or a video is visible and is played. Like we can show in this sample, you can see a video which doesn't start automatically but is waiting for a scrolling action. On top is a text box with some invisible text, and now you see is the visible part coming up. And while scrolling, the video is played in the speed of scrolling. It's played back and forth depending on how I scroll. It's upwards or downwards. And with this feature, you can control what the user is seeing, which text the person is reading, and to support the content with some picture assets, with videos and stuff. And I will show you now how you can build and create an easy scrollytelling in our design tool Purple DS Composer. So let's start with a new project, and we start with a text box. We place it somewhere on the stage, put it in the right size, whatever you like to. Add some text. For now I'll just use some placeholder text, which you can find with right-clicking in the context menu. And in the text tab I enable the scrolling option. And now, as a second ingredient, so to say, we add some pictures. We add a Berlin picture. Just resize it a little bit. And put it in the background so the text is always on top because it's our scrolling element. Now we transform this picture into a composition. Resize the composition to the size of the stage. And now when I double click on the composition, I find the picture still inside, in the right size. I replace it a little bit so that we can see the center of the Berlin-Brandenburger Tor. And what we want to have in the end is that we can scroll through this text, and in the background it is changing between different pictures of Berlin. And to get this, or to create this experience, we have to double click on the composition and add some scenes inside the composition. With this plus we can add some more scenes. Now this is our Brandenburger Tor. And now we add another picture like Berlin, a view of Berlin at daylight. Here in the background you can find the TV tower at the Alexanderplatz. And now we add a third picture in the third scene. And this is a view at night. I can center this a little bit. So now we have three scenes with three different pictures. And what we have to do now is to set the transition of the scenes, which we do with these icons here, the in-between icons. We have to change the trigger. It shouldn't change the scene when the end of the clip is reached, but it should wait for a button for the trigger of the text. And here we also click to wait for a button, and a third time. And what we have to do now is we have to connect the text box with our composition in three scenes. So we go to the Interaction tab, the widget properties, And here you see this is about scrollytelling. The text box is marked, active, and now I can choose a target composition. So this will be the composition which will be controlled by scrolling. And we say we want to have the new composition. The name can be checked here in the layers list on the left hand side and will be visible here. For now we have a connection between those two, and what you see here when I zoom in is a thin red line. This is the line. Whenever a marked text is crossing this line, upwards crossing, it's jumping to the next scene inside our composition. And when it's scrolled the other way around, so it crosses from the top part to the bottom part, it will go backwards in the series of scenes. We can change the offset to somewhere on top. Now you can see the thin red line has moved to top, so whenever text is crossing the top line, the trigger of the scene will happen. So the scene change in the background will happen, and we can put it also somewhere deep down at the bottom, for example. Standard wise, it is set to 50% of the height of the box. So this would be 0% of the height, so at the top, and 100% at the bottom, or somewhere in between, whatever you like to. So now we have the text and the composition connected, but in the composition now we not only want the trigger to wait for a button, but we also want it to be controlled by scrolling. So again, we have to activate this in this checkbox. We don't have to change anything now because we just take the standard version. Always check here the in-betweens. Please controlled by scrollytelling. Third time, controlled by scrollytelling. So now we have 3 times controlled by scrollytelling. This will be the starting scene, the scene that will be visible when we go onto this page. And what we need now is a marker, a trigger in the text to change to the second scene, 1 marker, and a marker to change from the second to the third scene. So when you want to show all different scenes, you need 3. If you have 3 scenes, you need 2 markers, because the first scene will always be the starting scene, which is visible no matter where you start. It's the first scene that will be visible. And what we do now is we go into the text box, mark a word. Let's say we check for this one. I just enter a little space so that you can see what we're doing. And now I mark the word, right-clicking, getting the context menu, and insert a scrollytelling marker. Now it got a light background, so it's highlighted when you design, that you can see which word is the specific marker. In the final app it won't be visible, as well as the thin red line is only for design purposes while you are in the composer, but won't be visible in the app when it's tested in the app. And now we want to enter a second marker somewhere down here. Let's say we enter some spaces here. Here it is. And double click on the word, right button of the mouse, insert scrollytelling marker. If you want to get rid of a marker, you could again double click the word, right click, and delete the scrollytelling marker. So for now we have the text box activated and connected to our composition. Our composition has 3 scenes. All scenes have a wait for button trigger and should be controlled by scrollytelling. our text box has different markers, and now we check in the preview. Nothing happens, is waiting for scrolling. So you don't see the red line anymore, you don't see the background of the marked words. So we start now and test. At 50% height of the text box, we should have a screen, a scenes change. Exactly what happened here. So now go through, and here we have the next change of scenes. This is the most simple scrollytelling that you could have. You could also add like a rectangle in the background that gives your text a better way to be readable, and control, that it's not mixed with background colors, for example. So we give it a light blue, for example. And what we can do as well is not only having these pictures and just go through them, but we could also have a slide animation, for example. So let's say we want to have this picture scroll through from left to right while the user is scrolling, reading through the text. So we just enter a keyframe animation, and we set it in time and say it should take 3 seconds to go from left to right. So this would be the animation. But what we do now is we give the animation a checkbox here, controlled by scrollytelling. And now, while the reader is going through, we check this in the preview, here, changing to this, the reader will take himself through this beautiful view of Berlin, and the animation will take as long as it takes the reader to go from scrollytelling marker 1 to scrollytelling marker 2. And then the next scene change will be triggered. So now it does not necessarily take only 3 seconds to go through the animation, but as fast as the user is going through this and scrolls through this. So with this functionality, you can really control perfectly what is visible and which moment, and where the user is reading through the text, and so that you can be sure that the context of text and picture will make a perfect fit. So, thank you for watching and have fun with this nice feature.